What would you do if your own friend stole from you, looked you in the eye, pretended nothing happened, while using your money to fund their shiny new toys? 30 years ago, I found myself holding proof in my hands my so-called friends were thieves. And when the cops didn't care, I became judge, jury, and executioner. They thought they got away with it. Instead, they ended up paying me hush money just to keep their lives from falling apart. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted, you're going to feel this one deep in your gut. Smash that like button, subscribe, and buckle up because this isn't just revenge. This is justice delivered in cold, hard cash. Now, I wasn't Sherlock Holmes, but I had an older buddy, John. He was street smart, the kind of guy who always seemed to know what was going on in town. And one day, he leaned in and told me what he'd heard. Someone had been bragging about their new car amp and a police scanner. That was all I needed. I put two and two together and suddenly, the guys who had been hanging around me just days earlier, laughing, joking, acting like brothers didn't want anything to do with me anymore. They weren't avoiding me because they were busy. They were avoiding me because they were guilty. Rick, Karl, my so-called friends. But I wasn't about to just throw accusations. No. If I was going to burn these guys down, I needed proof. So I called the stores, one by one, explained the situation. And shockingly, they agreed to help. Within a few days, my fax machine screamed to life, spitting out copies of the receipts. I held the papers in my hand, and that's when my jaw dropped. The idiot trick had actually signed his own name on the receipt. I laughed out loud. They had handed me the news to hang them with. But here's the thing, when I called the credit card company, they didn't care. Local police didn't even want to file a report. I was stunned. I had a slam dunk case, black and white evidence, and nobody cared. And that's when it hit me. If the system won't deliver justice, then I will. I remember sitting there, staring at the receipts, heart pounding. My hands shook as I picked up the phone. I recorded the call. When Rick answered, I didn't waste time. Hey, Rick, I know what you did. I've got the receipts with your signature. If you don't want me going to your boss, to the local paper, to everyone we know, then you're going to listen carefully. You could hear the panic flood his voice. The stammering, the excuses. He knew the game was over. My demands were simple, but powerful. Return every single item you bought. I would take them back for store credit. Pay me $1,000 in cash. Cold, hard money for the humiliation and the stress. From this day forward, pretend you don't even know me. If he refused, his life would unravel. His job, his reputation, his family, all of it would go up in smoke. There was silence on the line. I could almost hear his heartbeat. And then, in the smallest voice, he said, okay. Handing over the items was one thing, but when he handed me that envelope of cash, oh my God, the satisfaction was indescribable. This wasn't just about the money. It was about the power shift. For weeks, he had strutted around with my money, my credit, and now he was paying me for the privilege of keeping his pathetic little life intact. I returned the items for credit, pocketed the cash, and from that day on, Rick and Karl. They weren't friends, they weren't even acquaintances. They were dead to me. And I made sure everyone else knew, too. Don't let Rick or Karl into your house. They're thieves. They'll rob you blind. Looking back now, decades later, I still think about that summer. About the rush of pulling off something that the police couldn't or wouldn't do. And I still remember John, the older guy who helped me piece it all together. He was the real hero, the edgy sleuth. Without him, I might never have caught them. We used to spend summers blasting music out of our cars, polishing chrome in the hot sun, laughing about everything and nothing. It's been 30 years since I last saw him, but his advice still echoes in my mind. When an older guy speaks, you listen. Picture it, two arrogant thieves thinking they outsmarted the world, brought to their knees, not by cops, not by courts, but by the very friend they betrayed. That $1,000 envelope wasn't just hush money. It was an admission that they lost, that I won. And that betrayal has consequences. Always. Sometimes the system won't fight for you. But if you're smart, if you hold the cards, you can make your own justice. Just remember, thieves might steal your money, but don't ever let them steal your power. If this story gave you chills, smash that like button and drop a comment. What's the most satisfying revenge you've ever seen? And of course, subscribe for more stories where the bad guys get exactly what they deserve.